8:32 in the morning. Welcome to the Saturday Town Hall edition. We're on some Terrace Martin this morning. So many songs, man. I woke up this morning, I think, I won't tell you how early, but I've been listening to the brother all morning. So we're going to be talking to him a little later in the show. And what is our topic today? Where are the good jobs? Finding employment, getting your hustle on, doing something to feed your family under this pandemic. And I'd love to hear from you. 520-KJLH, 520-5554. That's the number. Just put your Southern California area code on the front of it and you're good. You're in. I want to thank our sponsors, the Independent Professionals Association at indiework.org, the great city of Los Angeles, the incredible county of Los Angeles, and of course, Community Build, and KJLH. So this is what we're doing to make sure we all have as much insight and advantage within this crisis as possible. Welcoming now the CEO of the LAEDC, president of the World Trade Center Los Angeles, and he is the chief operating officer over there, Stephen Cheung. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the front page.
Thanks so much for having me.
So this is not something any of us saw coming, right? I mean, just the impact of COVID-19 on our economy, on our jobs, on our outlook in Los Angeles, where we do rely so much on tourism, we rely on entertainment, pretty much all of the things that have been hit really hard here. What's your view of, of how we recover moving forward?
Well, we did not expect this at all. Back in February, for example, the LA County Economic Development Corporation, LAEDC, actually did an economic forecast. And COVID, which is one thing that kind of was a blip on the map that we heard that's happening around Asia. And so at that point, we're looking at a pretty stable 2020 forecast, and we were thinking that it's going to be a pretty strong year. And of course, everything changed in March for us here in Los Angeles, and since then, the unemployment rate has just skyrocketed. And recently, actually just yesterday, the new unemployment rate came out from the U.S. government, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And it's been quite devastating for us across the country, and especially here in Los Angeles region. But there's a bit of good news. The U.S. unemployment rate dropped from 10.2% last month to 8.4% in August. So you're seeing a slight improvement, but that really depends on what's going to happen when it comes to our control of the COVID-19 situation here in Los Angeles.
Right. So, I mean, I think Robert Salcedo said, and we always think of this in really crisis times, that sometimes that's people who just have given up on looking for jobs, or people who have gotten some employment but are still underemployed. But yeah, it's a nice trend. But what you just mentioned about keeping the lid on COVID makes me think about this weekend. It is, the Labor Day weekend, and people want to go outside and go to the beach. And, go to the beach in your backyard, please. Sprinkle some sand around, get a towel, go on YouTube and get some wave sounds and just fake it, make it. I'm so worried about this weekend.
Yeah, I think we should be. And I'm looking at previous kind of holiday weekends, like Memorial Day weekend, right after that, and immediately you see that spike that happened. And even 4th of July, if you remember, the LA County and also LA City governments were talking about how we can maybe slowly start reopening our economy on July 6th. That was the hope. But after July 4th, we just saw that a massive spike, and it wasn't feasible for us to be able to open the businesses safely. And so because of that, we saw additional impacts negatively to our economy, and now we're still struggling with it. So finally, over the last few weeks, we're seeing some positive trends and decline in the COVID-19 cases. So everybody's very excited. But to your point, this weekend is actually going to be a significant turning point for us to see whether we're going to be able to go through this weekend without seeing a spike. If so, we might have actually a chance of seeing some positive development when it comes to unemployment numbers.
You know, it's funny because it's like it's nice that people, miss people so much and they really want to be around other people. I mean, I think that's lovely. But at the same time, there's this illogical thing that's happening where people are so happy that, barbershops and salons are starting to be able to be reopened, albeit at a lower capacity. And we're starting to see some businesses coming back, some outdoor dining. So why would you go to the beach? And you just laid it out so well, Mr. Cheung. Look what happened July 4th. We were about to start reopening and everybody decided to go, get sick. And we're starting to see a trend line, where we could really start seeing some things reopen. And here we have the opportunity to mess it up once again.
Well, this is, we learn a lot. So, you mentioned earlier, I actually have two jobs. One of my jobs is, at the World Trade Center Los Angeles, where we work with a lot of our international partners. So we actually track very closely everything that's happening around the world, the best practices and what they're doing. So looking at places like New Zealand or looking at places like, even Japan, they're now really much, back in operation in many ways. It's because when there was a crisis, when they saw the spike is coming, everybody got together and they wore their masks. They stayed at home for 14 days. They made sure that they isolated themselves. And because of the hurt that they felt at that one moment, for a few weeks, the results came back later on as they did help them kind of get to the positive side of things. Here, I don't think, in the United States and even in Los Angeles region, we haven't consistently actually done that. So we're not able to see the benefits that some of the other regions, some of the other countries have witnessed. And obviously, we're very different in terms of our geographic makeup and just our industries and activities. However, I think all around the world to see that a lot of the numbers are going down, and for us, it's not going down the same rate. It's a bit disappointing. It's a bit scary. And to your point, in terms of opening up the barber shop, I was very excited to hear as well. But at the same time, I know that there's a huge risk involved. So I'm still cutting my own hair and messing up my hair on a weekly basis.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit. LA County Economic Development Corporation, your website says collectively advancing opportunity and prosperity for all. But one thing I do want to, talking about those barbershops, et cetera, LAEDC.org does have guidelines for safely reopening your business and other stuff like that. But, to the earlier conversation where we're talking about trends and where are the good jobs at, how do you see those, industries that could thrive, that could provide that prosperity that you're talking about here in the middle of, a situation where things we've relied on have just dried up?
Yeah, this is as you mentioned in our website, there's a lot of great information on there to help people kind of process what's happening right now, especially for the small companies that are here. So if they go to our website, again, laedc.org/coronavirus, they're going to see something we created called a community connectory with a lot of new information about grants and loans that might be able to help them through this entire process. But in terms of the jobs and the opportunities that are going to be available over the short period and hopefully the long period, we're looking at the data and what the unemployment and the employment information that came out yesterday from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We can see that a lot of jobs have been added. Well, I wouldn't say a lot. Jobs have been added in the retail sector because, as you mentioned before, with the barbershop, with the restaurants slowly starting to open up, that's actually creating some opportunities. But we're also seeing that, for example, we're seeing an uptake, an increase in operation over at the Port of Los Angeles and Port of Long Beach, because of the trade with the rest of the world slowly starting to resume. That's creating additional jobs in the warehousing, logistics, and transportation sector as well. So if we continue to see this trend, you're going to see more kind of hopefully normalization of these activities that are happening. So again, retail, restaurants, transportation, warehousing, and we're also starting to get some positive trend in manufacturing as well. A lot of people forget that Los Angeles is one of the largest manufacturing centers in the United States with over 350,000 jobs in this region on manufacturing. So we lost a lot of those jobs during the COVID-19 initial 2 months, but hopefully as we're starting to manufacture more things again, that will help us with this transition.
All right. Let's go to Big John calling us from LA. Good morning, Big John.
How you doing, Dominique?
I'm good. So talk to me on your perspective about this.
As far as
jobs. Yeah, jobs. That's what we're talking about today. And you sound really quiet. I'm not sure if we're on speakerphone or what the thing is.
No, it's all good. I just I practice keeping my voice at an even tone so nobody accuse me of being angry and hostile.
Oh, yeah. Doesn't work. They'll accuse you anyway. So
Exactly.
What's your perspective on where people can find good jobs right now in the middle of this pandemic?
Well, for sure, the trades are up and running. They haven't stopped. Has it been a slowdown? Yes. Like for the IBEW, we are not accepting applications until September 30th. So everyone who had already tested and was ready for oral interviews, all that got put on pause. But they're still coming on careers as far as all the other trades, and there's opportunity there because there's a lot of things that still have to be built over the next 10 years, dealing with the Conrack. We're building that right now over there by the airport. That's going to be the largest parking structure, I believe, in the nation when we get done. SoFi Stadium is finishing up, but there's still a lot of work to be done out there on the surrounding area of that property. But there's a lot of opportunity and access to the trades for individuals who want to get into the trades. So
it's still worth a shot, even though, like you said, people are on hold till September. You could still get in the pipeline. Where would they go for that, Mr. Harrell?
They can come to us every Thursday at 35th Street Normandy, where I still have my second call class, and of course we social distance and we have things when they come in there. It's a smaller class. It's not as big as it used to be because of course, the COVID. But they also can go on to the various websites like IBW, local11.org, LAEDC.com, or the various other trades, the carpenters, the plumbers, pipe fitters, and so on, to find out what's needed to get on. But I always encourage someone to tap into individuals who are already in the trade so they can establish relationships. Because oftentimes, if I go to the website, there's a lot of great information on there, but that's not probably how the system actually works. And
got it. So what time is the 35th and Normandy thing, John?
Thursday at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this information. I mean, I know, a lot of people, you got to just use every angle. That's how I feel right now. We got to be resourceful, sometimes make up our own thing, and sometimes try to get in on a thing. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
What's your perspective on what Big John is saying? Mr. Cheung, he's talking about, the building trades, and we talked about it with Mr. Salcedo, all of these projects that have to come online before the Olympics, and all of these projects, infrastructure projects that we just need for our city, Olympics or no Olympics.
Yeah, you brought up a really good point because the construction jobs are still moving forward in many of the projects. As mentioned, the SoFi Stadium has been moving forward during the pandemic, and billions of dollars are being spent in Inglewood region. On top of it, in LAX, as a lot of people already know, over the last, I would say, 8 years or so, LAX has dedicated over $14 billion into modernization and improving the airport in preparation for the 2028 Olympic Games. So those construction projects are also moving forward. And, of course, don't forget about Measure M, the transportation project that's been dedicated to the Los Angeles County region when it comes to rail, when it comes to roads. So LA Metro has been moving forward with those projects as well. So there's still opportunity there. And I would encourage your listeners to really maybe look at their website at LA Metro or LAX or also SoFi Stadium, and working with the trades to see what opportunities there are. But those investments have been dedicated, so a lot of those projects are continuing and moving forward, and there might be additional opportunities as we're moving forward.
So, one of the things that you do is get people interested in investing in this region, bringing in new businesses and projects and deals, internationally as well as nationally. But it's easy to think of this as something that's only impacting us, but this is a worldwide crisis, this pandemic. So how does that impact the ability for you to do that and the future of our growth, our economic growth here?
Yeah, it's been really tough, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Prior to this last year, we've been doing really well working with international community from anywhere from Germany, from the Netherlands, from South America. There are a lot of folks interested in the Los Angeles region because we're such a great, diverse economy here. And we actually did a report on the foreign direct investment that's been happening in California, and we released it in May. And we found that last year, for example, there were well over 700,000 jobs that were created by these foreign-owned enterprises that are located in California, which is a great thing for us. Unfortunately, really after COVID, we haven't seen a lot of interest or a lot of activity into new projects coming in because, one, they can't even get in here. It's very difficult for anybody to travel.
Right.
So they're not able to kind of scope out what they want and meet the folks that they want. And the Zoom calls and the Teams calls are great. But the thing is, it doesn't substitute for in-person really analyzing the market. So that is going to have a long-term impact because these international companies are investing a lot of dollars here, and they're also hiring locally. So to not have that source as an additional way for us to bolster our economy, it's just been very, very tough. I honestly don't really know what the projection is going to be. However, we are seeing that a lot of countries are reaching back out to us saying that they're still slowly starting to recover. So their countries now are very interested in exploring future options, and Los Angeles is still one of the key regions that they want to invest in because when you look around the world, LA is still a very stable market. So that's just positive news. But in terms of the timeline, it's going to be very hard to predict. I think the first thing we need to see is basically when can we bring people back here to Los Angeles? And to your point earlier, this really depends on how we control the COVID-19 situation. So to all the listeners, I'm really hoping that they'll take your advice and really kind of bring the sand around themselves this weekend to help us, kind of not have an outbreak here in this region over the weekend.
Yeah. And, I know this is the views and opinions that I'm about to say do not reflect those of Stephen Cheung. But I think this is why we also need a different president, because California can be, we could have 0 COVID cases. But since we don't isolate people and make them quarantine when they come to the state, it's really hard to control it without a national strategy. And I feel like the world is looking at us. When you talk about international and national trade, other countries that have got their act together more and are seeing their numbers go down, I feel like they would probably be hesitant to just come on over and visit if they think they're going to get sick.
They definitely are. I won't name anybody in particular right now, but we work very closely with our international partners, especially the government partners. And a lot of people don't know this, but these international partners, they sometimes open up offices here in Los Angeles because this is such an important region for them to access. And they have a lot of their diasporas and their citizens actually live in Los Angeles region, right? So they have to open the government office and they have to send their government officials here. Well, I just spoke with a few of them that are recent arrival because of the transition that's happening right now within their own government. So a couple of them actually landed over the last month or so, and they were telling me how shocked they were as they're going through Customs and Borders Patrol and as they're going through LAX. There's not a really screening process that they've seen around the world, where if you fly into their area, you first have to be on the hold room for a period of time, anywhere from like 2 hours to even 8 hours, so they can do this temperature check and make sure that you're all clear. They have a plan for you to basically be moved to your hotel room or wherever you're going to stay, and there's a plan for them to basically track you for 14 days. In Taiwan, for example, they give you a cell phone from the CDC, and basically they call you randomly, and someone will check at your hotel to make sure you're there and you're not going about. After 14 days, then you're free to go, and they still track you, but the thing is, there's a system. So our international friends who are coming here are completely shocked that they can walk through LAX and just basically come to LA without really knowing where they've been. So it's also worrying them because they report this information back to their own country. So this is going to shape the guidance that they have for international travelers that eventually will be coming back there.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because we think of these as strictly health issues, but they really become business issues at that point where people are, making a decision whether it's safe to travel internationally, whether it's safe to come here and invest, and whether they are feeling comfortable with moving their money here into this region. So, yes, we all should do our individual part and not go, shake our booties on the beach this weekend. But we also have to think about, what choices we're making in terms of our leadership. What would you advise people, in terms of your view? You have so much insight about the economy here locally, nationally, and internationally, both for small businesses and individuals who are just trying to figure it out, how to navigate this space for their own, keep their own lights on. What advice would you give?
Well, I would say don't isolate yourself. I think at this time what we're hearing is a lot of folks are feeling a bit hopeless. With all the bad news are coming through, the various channels every single day, it becomes overwhelming. And so some of them are starting to shut down and basically saying, I don't even want to hear anything. However, there's so many resources that are being created right now to support our communities here. On our website, we actually try to go through these information and put the most relevant information for people to access. LA County government, for example, through the supervisor's office, they've created this regional COVID regional fund that will basically provide loans and grant assistance to small companies and micro enterprises that are here. That's a great resource for people to be able to access very quickly. The governor's office has created additional resources and even ombudsman's office to basically help people negotiate certain things. So they've allocated $50 million recently to an iBank program. So things are coming up left and right. And also the LA City Mayor's office with their Mayor's Fund have worked with the LA Community College District to basically create the LA College Promise Work program where they help community colleges and their students to be able to access jobs. So these information and these resources are coming up, but it sometimes gets overwhelming with all the different needs that are coming through. So I highly encourage folks to stay engaged. There are many, many different resources out there, whether it's through the county government, whether it's through the city government, whether it's through us at LAEDC or any of the nonprofit partners. Continue to reach out. We'll be happy to provide additional resources and support because we need to get through this together. I always use stats, another stat that a lot of people don't know about that we recently try to highlight is in Los Angeles County, about 93% of our companies that are located here in LA County have under less than 20 employees. These are small businesses.
Wow.
So these small businesses really drive our economy. And if they're not surviving this, if they're not able to get through this, the future of the Los Angeles economy is not going to survive. So we need them to do better and do well, and that's why we're in this together. And I'm glad you made the connection earlier that sometimes the personal kind of choices and their activities, sometimes they're not connecting with the economy. But everybody, whatever they do, actually has a direct impact on our ability to open up the businesses or be able to recover from this COVID-19 crisis. So that's why we're with information we're sending out. There's currently this entire campaign about Safer at Home. What we're trying to do is transition to a new campaign called Safer at Work, so that we can basically get people to get back to work, but the thing is do it in a safe manner.
Well, LAEDC.org/coronavirus is one place where we can keep up with these things and not get too overwhelmed. And Stephen Cheung, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Family, we are continuing this conversation. We're going to go virtual for a minute and look at opportunities and challenges there. We are taking your phone calls, 520-KJLH, 520-5554 out of 310 and 818-562. And you are in. We are talking about where are the good jobs, finding and keeping employment under pandemic. And our sponsors, of course, the great city of Los Angeles, the county of Los Angeles, Community Build, and the Independent Professionals Association at indiework.org. I'm Dominique DiPrima for KJLH.